Hi, I'm Byron Scott of the Los Angeles Lakers, 3-time NBA champion, and you're listening to Courtside with my man Mark.
Hey everybody, Mark Israel and welcome to Courtside. This week we featured something a little bit different. We had the opportunity to head out to LA for All-Star Weekend, which was really a blast. And Byron Scott and some other folks were nice enough to invite us to sponsor and host an event that they were doing to raise money for research into sickle cell anemia. It was kind of a really cool event. It was actually at a bowling alley, believe it or not, but we were lucky enough to find a quiet spot at the bowling alley to sit down and talk to some guys, including Byron. And you know, when you get a couple of guys like me and Byron together, same generation, same age, started talking about kids and family, some cool stuff came out of it. Check it out.
You know, you're a teenager, that's cool, right? For you, your 20s, you're a ball player, that's pretty cool. 30s, 40s, you have kids, now grandkids and everything. This is it. No, we started already. Obviously, we know that. This is it. So it's cool, man. Right?
Yeah.
Every stage, you know. Some people sometimes people ask me like, when they're 3 and 4, that's the cutest. It is. It's really cute. But then all of a sudden they're 16, 17, and they're like, you can talk to them. You know,
you can talk to them and all that good stuff.
And now now we're like,
every stage is a blessing.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And we just got to continue to just enjoy it.
Amen, man. Good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. So. My podcast is a little different. I'm from New York. If you haven't figured that out, man, I grew up rooting against you. In Madison Square Garden. You got the better of us most of the time. So
we had some fun there.
You had more fun than I did.
Yeah, we had some fun. Yeah, we enjoyed back in those days, Mark, leaving our opponent. The opposing arenas, walking out of there not very happy. So it was always good to leave and get a win in Madison Square Garden, especially because that's such a historical place to play.
It's a fun place to play.
And it's fun, and they know the game. Yeah. It's fun.
Do you feel? It's funny. So I was in. I went to a Lakers game. I sat courtside for the first time recently, and I walked into the arena. And it's just a different vibe, right?
Yeah.
There's just a different vibe. And with no disrespect to the actual physical arena, it's an arena, but there's a different vibe. There's something special because it's the Lakers. Do you feel that when you go to Madison Square Garden or Boston Garden? Is something different about those places?
Absolutely. I think those two that you just mentioned, the Boston Garden, Madison Square Garden, the Chicago Arena back in the day was another one that, it was just a different feel. It was a different vibe. It was a different atmosphere when you played in those arenas. So, me being one of these kids on the West Coast, when you went back to the Midwest and to the East, you wanted to play well because that's where your name started getting, some notoriety. If you go to those places and you do well, everybody starts talking about you. So I love playing in Madison Square Garden and the Boston Garden. And,
even with those nasty, tough New York fans probably saying all sorts of mean.
Listen, New York fans are very knowledgeable about the game of basketball. Probably all their sports. They're very knowledgeable, right? But the one thing that I admired about New York fans is that they were honest.
Yeah.
So if you were a good player or you were having a good game, you came back to the bench, they would let you know, man, you killing us tonight. You got to stop. So you got to respect that, from the New Yorkers.
Yeah, and who were some of the guys you played with? Was that the Patrick Ewing and Oakley and
Anthony Mason, John Starks, who was a good friend. Greg Anthony, another really good friend of mine. I mean, they just had some of the toughest teams. Yeah. So when you played New York Knicks back in those days, you knew you were going to be in for a fight.
Yeah. Yeah, but Oakley would sort of like throw a little elbow as you came through the lane.
Not a little one. It wasn't nothing little about Charles. Charles hit you and you felt it.
Yeah, you felt it. Yeah. Right? You probably felt it for a couple of days after.
Yeah, you felt it.
So so when you were playing, man, who is like, for a guard like you, who's the toughest guy for you to guard? Or the guy. Yeah.
Come on, man.
Or everybody.
Yeah, the one that the Knicks had the most trouble with too, Michael Jordan.
Yeah, right.
He was by far the toughest guy to guard. But also, Reggie Miller was a tough guy because he moved so well without the ball, and he was such a clutch player. I got the pleasure of playing with him in Indiana for a few years too. Right. Isaiah Thomas was tough to guard, but a guy that doesn't get a lot of notoriety. That a lot of people seem to forget. Rolando Blackman was tough. I mean, me and him had battles. He was just a tough 6'6" 2 guard. So, those four guys right there, those are guys that I can just name right at the top of my head. There's obviously a lot of other guys, but those four right there, they were tough.
That's amazing. Rowe is unbelievable for Dallas.
Yes, yes.
A big time scorer, smooth shooter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you obviously played. It's an amazing story, right? You grew up here, right?
Yeah.
You're a kid from you're an LA kid who winds up being on one of the greatest, most storied franchises. That must have been like a dream come true for you.
It was, because it was a team that I loved. I was a big Laker fan growing up. I lived 14 blocks away. It was on 100. I lived on 104th and 6th Avenue in Inglewood, California. And I went to Morningside High School. And every now and then we would, walk to the Forum and try to sneak in and see a game. For the most part, we were pretty successful in being able to just run down the tunnel and just run into the arena and just walk around and find a seat.
You ever tell Jerry Buss that you snuck in a couple times?
No, but I told Jerry West.
Okay.
So I used to sneak in here. So for me to have the opportunity to play for the team that I admired for so many years, and I was a big Jerry West fan, and to start my career there, it was a dream come true.
It's unbelievable. And obviously, I could put you on the spot, and you could name probably a dozen incredible guys, but your favorite teammates, who are the best guys you ever played with?
Like you said, all of them were great teammates, right. But the two guys that I hung out with the most, everybody called us the Three Amigos or the Three Musketeers, was Magic and Coop.
Yeah.
Those were my guys, and still to this day, we all still very close. We still talk to each other a lot. We still go to each other's events. So yeah, when you talk about guys that I love being around to this day, guys that I admire, guys that I have a lot of respect for, and guys that I still to this very day call very, very close friends of mine.
Amazing.
Irvin Magic Johnson and Michael Koopa-Loopa.
That's cool, man. I never heard him called that, man.
Koopa-Loopa, yeah.
I'm gonna try that. Let's see what he says when it comes out of my mouth. Coop's amazing because and I was a fan of those. You and I, we just talked about it. We're about the same age. So I was a fan in those days. Nowadays, I think there's more. I hear more talk from the commentators about great defenders. I don't remember hearing it back then. But when anybody talked about Cooper, when everybody talked about Michael Cooper, they talked about a guy who could lock you up and who could lock anybody down, and would always be put on the other team's best player, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, Larry Bird said it best. He's come out on numerous occasions and said Michael Cooper was the best defensive player that ever guarded me.
That's unbelievable.
And that is a hell of a statement.
Yeah,
coming from Larry Legend,
right.
That's a hell of a statement. But Coop was, to this day, I still think is one of the greatest defensive players I've ever seen.
That's unbelievable. Look, Larry doesn't mince words.
No, he don't.
He'd be happy to tell you who was the worst defender he ever played against.
Yeah, he would too. That's true.
and talk to me about one of my, when I was growing up, and my kids know this, I have a couple of favorite players.
Okay.
But one of my favorite players, and a guy who, quite frankly, I think just doesn't get talked about enough these days, is Kareem, is the captain, right? I think when we talk about these silly lists, right? The 10 best players, 20 best players, which is really, there's kind of stupid lists, right?
Yeah,
but okay, people talk about Michael and they talk about LeBron and talk about other incredible players, but Kareem did things that were never done before and will never be done again. Just speak to me a little bit about him.
Well, I agree with you there, Mark. I think Kareem, in my opinion, he's the greatest player to ever play the game. And when you talk about great basketball players, to me, you got to take the full body of work. This guy lost one game in high school, one game in college. He won 3 national championships in college, and the only reason he didn't win 4 is because freshmen weren't allowed to play varsity that year. Yep. But he had a great saying. He said the UCLA basketball team were ranked number 1 in the country, but they were ranked number 2 on campus because the JV team beat them in practice.
Wow.
With Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So it just goes to show how dominant he was. And I agree with you. I don't think he gets enough credit, enough recognition for what he was able to establish in the NBA, what he was able to accomplish. So when you talk about greatest players of all, there's only 2 people in my mind that you can really bring up, and that's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I'm a huge fan of both of them. It's funny you mentioned UCLA. So last night we were at the Rockets game. I live in Houston. Mm-hmm. Rockets Clippers game, and my son-in-law, who you just met, was sitting next to Elvin Hayes, Big E.
The Big E.
Yeah, game of the century.
Game of the century.
It was Kareem, well then Lou Alcindor, and Elvin Hayes. You're talking about storied players, guys that really deserve the recognition.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, Alvin Hayes is the only one that gave Kareem a loss in college. You know what I mean? University of Houston. But the Big E is one of those great players, too, that a lot of people forget about. And I think it's just generational. Right. We're in a generation right now where they don't look back 20, 30 years ago and see how great some of these players were. They're going on the now. Right. And the now is LeBron and some of these other guys. And I'm not taking nothing away from LeBron because I'm a big LeBron James fan. Okay. And what he's been able to accomplish in the NBA, his longevity has been unmatched.
Incredible.
And so you got to give him his flowers because he is definitely one of the greatest.
Yeah, and Luka, how do you like Luka on the team now?
I like Luka, but the problem with Luka is he can't defend. So you got to get 4, 5, 6 other guys who can really defend to cover up his mistakes on the defensive end. But terrific basketball player. When the ball's in his hands, he makes magic happen. So you got to give him that credit. But I would love to see him do a better job on the defensive end.
There's a couple of guys that, I'm going to put Luka in that category who just seem to play at their own speed. You can't speed them up. You can't slow them down. They're gonna get to their spots, and there's really not much that you can do. So we now have KD in Houston, and it's just such a pleasure to watch him. You know what he's going to do, or you think you know what he's going to do, but you just can't stop him.
Can't stop him. No, I mean, again, you're looking at a 6'11", 6'10", 7'2" guard who has ball handling abilities of a point guard. And then once he gets in his motion of shooting the ball, there's really nothing you can do because he's so long. But KD has been one of the most efficient scorers that we've had in the NBA for a long time. And I've been a big KD fan even when he was at the University of Texas. So the guy is a first ballot Hall of Famer, and obviously he wants to try to do some damage there in Houston and see if he can bring a championship there.
Yeah, we're really enjoying having him. So tell me a little bit about what we're doing here. So by the way, we all know that you can shoot. So this is a bowling themed event, but I want you to talk about what it's really all about. But we all know you can. But let's get first things first, man. We all know you can shoot the rock. Can you bowl the rock? Are you a bowler?
I can bowl the rock too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a bad bowler. My high is 237.
That's pretty darn good, man.
I can throw that thing a little bit.
With or without the bumpers up?
Without the bumpers. I haven't needed bumpers on the bowling alley for a long time.
237, you got a big hook there?
Not a big hook, but it's just a nice little gradual. It's kind of like my golf game. I got a nice little gradual draw. So same with bowling. But yeah, the bowling, I used to do a lot of bowling way back in the day. Even when I was playing with the Lakers, I got hooked into bowling. And then as I got older, I got hooked into tennis, and now I'm hooked into golf. But bowling is still something that I love to do, and I really enjoy it. And what we're doing here with the KISS Foundation is for the sickle cell disease. I have the sickle cell trait, so this is kind of something that's been great for me to get involved with Kiki Shepard. When she asked me about it, or asked me to get involved with the organization, she didn't know I had the trait. So it was very organically that it happened, and glad I've joined over the last 5 years to do some really good things with her in the organization, especially our golf tournament. This is the first year that we're doing a bowling tournament together, and we just thought it was only fitting to do it during All-Star Weekend. Right.
It's a lot of fun. Well, I appreciate all the work that you're doing, and
appreciate you, Mark. Thank you.
My pleasure, man. I hope you raised a lot of money and raised some awareness. And thanks for spending a couple of minutes with us. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I really appreciate you coming in, man.
My pleasure.
Thanks, brother.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Appreciate it, man.
Yes,
Thank you
sir.
so much.
Thanks for watching this week's episode. Like and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time.